Good evening, my name is Giovanni, and welcome to Face to Face. How do we apply Jesus' command to love God and love others in our communities? One organization, Boy with the Ball, is doing just that in Boston. And Melissa Long, its program director, is here tonight to share with us how they are helping young people in impoverished communities thrive and fulfill their God-given purpose. Are you ready to hear how? Let's get into it. Melissa, thank you so much for coming on the program. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. In particular, I want to ask you how you learned about Boy with the Ball and what interested you in being part of the organization.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me today. It's really fun and great. I'm excited. So I actually found Boy with the Ball through LinkedIn. There was
of all things.
I know, right? You really can find a job on LinkedIn. So I had been job searching and I was interested in youth development. And so I stumbled upon a group that was about youth development and saw that I was just intrigued by some of the posts of one of the people. And so I clicked on who it was, and it was the founder of Boy with the Ball. I said, great, what's Boy with the Ball? And that's how I found the website and initially what Boy with the Ball is about. I think the thing that really drew me to Boy with the Ball was that it exists to help young people reach their dreams and help them with tangible things. But then there also is a really deep dedication to really just walking with people and knowing them and loving them as people and caring for their hearts. But then also within that, Jesus is tied into it, and you can't go wrong with Jesus. That's kind of how I found it. My background is in science, actually. I thought I was going to work in a research lab, but then I realized that the thing that I was really passionate about was people, and that was something the Lord had instilled in my heart and that he'd been working on. And so just through prayer and discernment, I then kind of reached this place where I was open-handed. I had received a couple of pieces about youth development, about Boston, and then they just all fit Boy with the Ball.
So you were someplace else, not in Boston?
I was in Pennsylvania.
You're from Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So how long have you been in Boston at this point?
About a little over a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how's it going so far? I mean, it's still fairly recent.
It is. What people say is true, that the first year of anything is kind of hard. And so I think overall it's been going really well. The first year definitely was an adjustment period. But I think I've gotten into a really good spot where I feel more settled, where I have a good community around me. Yeah. The city is fun. There's a lot to do. So it's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is specifically your role with Boy with the Ball here in Boston?
Yeah. So I'm the program director in Boston.
Okay.
However, I was sent here to relaunch the team. And so essentially I am as high up as you can get in Boston. There's a board above me. There's a global team above kind of all of that. But yeah, in Boston, I'm really leading all of it. But my role is the program director.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So as the program director,
yes.
What does that mean for the city of Boston? What do you do?
Yeah. So the way that I touch every part of the work here in Boston, and we kind of have it. I don't want to say divided into two things, but there is the actual physical boots on the ground work within neighborhoods and with people that we're serving. Okay. But then there also are all these other parts of building out a nonprofit that then support the actual work in communities. And so I do most of the coordinating and the advertising and the mobilizing people for all of those things.
Okay.
So it's the actual leading outreach in the community where we're working and investing in the volunteers who are coming, investing in the community members. And then on the other side, it's also putting things out on social media. It's recruiting volunteers. It's finding people who want to use their resources to give to this. So it's a lot.
So one of the things that I was thinking about, because as you may or may not know, but the audience really who has been following us knows that we are in a series right now talking about social issues. And I've spoken with someone on immigration and with someone on incarceration. And, now I'm talking to you about Boy with the Ball, an organization that works, in the city, in particular neighborhoods in the city of Boston and with a particular population in the city of Boston. And so it made me think about you guys because of the work that you do. And so please tell the audience, specifically kind of like what you guys or what your team, the team that you have mobilized now, how does that work play out within the neighborhoods?
Yeah. So Boy with the Ball is a youth and community development organization that helps young people reach their dreams. And that's it's a really big task. And so the way that we approach it is through a main initiative called Love Your City, which it starts with first gathering other people from the city who care about young people or who want to walk out into a grand adventure where they're seeing people's lives change. So getting that team and getting volunteers to go with us. And then every week we go into a low-income housing project in the city to build relationships with young people and their families, to learn about what's happening in their lives, both the things that are going really well and the things they're good at, but then also their dreams and also areas where they might be running into roadblocks and hardship. And then from there, over time from that learning, we're able to kind of see some common things emerge. And so then out of that, it's us and then these community members co-creating solutions to address those things, really based in mentoring relationships and small groups. And small groups could be things like an ESL class, a tutoring center, boys group, girls group, parents group, workforce readiness. The list is really long because it really depends on whatever we uncover in the neighborhood. And then it actually is a model that works. It's been replicated in communities all over the world. And you just see outcomes rise within the community as young people rise through school, as parents are supported and get into great jobs, as leaders form from within the community. So that's the nutshell.
Okay. Well, it's interesting as you're explaining kind of, the work that you do and that you co-create. So meaning you try to find solutions to the problems within the neighborhoods with the people who are living there. Now, where do you find those mentors? Because you were talking about the sort of workforce development. Do you have relationships with other organizations within the city that you bring along with you, or are you really working with your group that's of volunteers to try to meet those different needs, or to fill in for the different needs that they identify?
So it's definitely a both and. I think the starting place most often would be that a mentor would be one of our volunteers, that the people helping to lead small groups would be our volunteers. But then also as we just continue to get to know people within the city who might have different areas of expertise, it could be where someone who works at a bank helps to create some kind of curriculum for financial management. And so that's kind of maybe where that group springs up. Or we find a teacher who has experience with ESL and can kind of help lead the class with us. And we definitely also really want to build relationships with other organizations that are out there, just because, everyone has their wheelhouse and the things that they have the capacity to do and the things they're really good at. And so, it's a both and.
Okay. And as you sort of are having conversations, or your team is having conversations with, the members of those different communities, what are some of the things that they're seeing on the ground? So one of the things, and this is one of the reasons why I'm asking this question, because in the course of having conversations with people sitting right where you are now, primarily actually a lot of the young men. So I had a creative series and I spoke with young rap artists, different artists through my creative series. And then more recently in this series, I spoke with someone who had been incarcerated. And the thing that I noticed the thread, kind of this common thread, was that in their families, they grew up in a single parent household.
Yeah.
And generally it was a sort of a mom-led household.
Yeah.
And so as you're working with Boy with the Ball, is this what you are seeing in those particular neighborhoods?
Yeah.
And, you know, another of the common themes is that, you know, these young men got into trouble. You know,
Yeah.
and so, and I know you work with both young boys and young people in general, right? It's not specifically to a gender.
Yeah.
But I would love to kind of hear from you what you're seeing on the ground right now in the neighborhoods in which you're working and Boy with the Ball is.
Yeah, definitely.
Share with us.
Yes, this actually is a really exciting moment to be able to share about that because I have things to share.
Okay, awesome.
So yeah, we one of the big things that we have started to see just as we've been having all of these conversations, actually over a full year, we've been working in this community for a year and meeting people for a year, so that's really exciting. But we actually have been seeing what you're talking about of a lot of the parents that we interact with are moms. The relationships I don't think have gotten deep enough where we've been able to explicitly ask the question like, hey, is the dad present? However, we have been able to ask questions around like, do you have a support system of people who are helping you with your kids? Like is there someone else who lives here who is helping you? And it really does seem like the majority of the moms that we've connected with are single parents who are just out there doing it on their own. Which, I mean, go them. It's a hard thing, but they're out there doing it. And so I think one of the things that we have seen is that these moms they're working really hard at their jobs, and then they're also working really hard at caring for their families. Plus the neighborhood and just some of the life circumstances that they're facing are really hard. And so then at least from our perspective and what we've learned, it seems like these moms are under supported and that they could just use more people in their lives who care about them. Plus on top of that, in caring for their kids, within this specific neighborhood, there's a lot of bad things that are happening that young people could fall into. And so there's that added pressure and that added anxiety and worry of, okay, what can I get my kid involved in so that they don't fall into these bad things? Or we were even just talking to a mom this past weekend who she was sharing about how even just her son coming home from school or coming home from a program is something that's so scary for her because he'll encounter people in the hallways who aren't supposed to be there and who are doing bad things and who she just really worries about her kids. So yeah, we are seeing what you are talking about.
Okay. And so in addition to kind of, you know, single moms, right, who are heading up households and have to work in order to provide for their families, what sorts of other things, what are some of those pressures, I guess, that you're seeing in the neighborhoods? Because, right, you guys are going into those neighborhoods, and, you know, are you feeling safe yourselves as you're working in those neighborhoods? You know, what are the circumstances for you guys as kind of an outside organization? And you're building. You don't announce that you're Boy with the Ball. You know, you're just coming in there building relationships, but you're still kind of at this outside force. Tell us what that's like.
Well, we do actually tell them who we are and what we do because we really, the way our work is built out is we actually walk up to people's doors, strangers at first, but then they become friends. And we knock on their door and we tell them who we are and why we're there. And I think if we didn't do that, it would be a little weird, to be honest. Some of the other things that we're seeing is there's a history of neighborhood violence. And just general crime and some gang activity and drug activity. And kind of the neighborhood that we're working in within its broader neighborhood is actually really a point of concern. And so we're seeing that, and I think some of the ways that we're uncovering that it's impacting young people is that then there's pressure on their parents to find something for them to be involved with. Because the alternative would be, well, I don't want you to fall into something bad, and so why don't you just stay at home? And then technology is something that they get sucked into, and it's just not great. And so, so that kind of some of those things happening in the neighborhood is contributing to kind of these two options for young people of needing to find a program or they're stuck at home.
Yeah.
So that's some of what we're seeing. And then to your other question about, okay, how are we actually doing this in a way that's safe? So we go on Saturdays into this neighborhood in broad daylight around lunchtime when honestly most people are sleeping. And then we always go in groups. So no one is ever knocking on an apartment door by themselves. They're never talking to a family by themselves, which helps to kind of hold everyone accountable to things. But it also is just way more fun to meet a group of people instead of a single person. So there are things that we have built in that kind of help to circumvent a lot of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've been working there now for a year. What are some bright spots? What are some good things that you as an organization is seeing in the relationships that you've built so far?
It's been really fun to see the Lord moving and working in relationships, both with volunteers, but then also in people in the community. There's this one mom that we've been getting to know, and she's really awesome. And it's been cool to see how the relationship with her has gone deeper really quickly. There was this one week where we showed up at her door. I'd been texting her a little bit the week before, and it didn't seem like she was doing so well. So we stopped by to see how she was doing, and she had been facing a lot of wrist pain that was kind of keeping her from picking up her daughter, and it was making it hard to cook and do all those things. And I'm a person, I don't have the ability to heal someone on my own. And so I really just felt prompted in that moment to ask her if she knew Jesus. And she said that she did. And so then I kind of shared a little bit about I told her I can't heal her because I'm a person. But then told her that Jesus could heal her and that he's bigger than all of these things that she's facing. And so then I asked if we could pray for her, and something inside of her just changed. I don't know what it was, but something changed. And then we prayed, and then she starts talking about her daughter and how it's been hard for her to get her daughter up in the mornings for different things. And so then that was a moment of being able to show her how Jesus can meet her in that well, have you thought about just asking him how you should wake her up? And then just obeying and seeing what happens. So it's been really cool to have those moments of showing people how Jesus can meet them where they're at, but then also providing opportunities to challenge them to call on him for his help and then see what he'll do. And then within the volunteers too, we get volunteers who know Jesus. We also get volunteers who don't know Jesus, which both are really awesome. And it's been cool for these volunteers who don't know Jesus to just touch him as he's working. There was one week where we were in the community on a Saturday knocking on doors. No one was answering. And so I said, okay, we should stop and pray. There was one believer in my group and one non-believer in the group. And so we prayed, and then no joke, 5 seconds later, the door that we were standing outside of, the family walked up, and we had a really meaningful conversation with them. And so then this one volunteer who, I didn't know this until weeks later, he had gone, and that had impacted him, so he went and told one of his friends. And she's a Hindu, actually, so she doesn't know Jesus, but she was so impacted by the fact that there are people out there who are putting their faith in something and then actually stepping out into it like it's real, because it is real, and then depending on it. And she said, why haven't I met these people? And so then she started coming, and it's just provided opportunities for us to know them, but then also for them to touch Jesus. So
that's a really beautiful story.
It's very fun.
But speaking of volunteers, because obviously, I'm going to assume that the need is great for volunteers. Do you have the volunteers that you need? Do you want to appeal to the audience that may be watching? Boy with the Ball might need what you have to offer. So tell us what your volunteer needs might be.
Yeah, we're always needing volunteers. And so we go out on Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're working in specifically the Jackson Square neighborhood. And so if you like talking to people, if you want people to know Jesus, if you care about young people, if you're just looking for something to do on a Saturday that's fun, that would give you the opportunity to meet other people, then this is for you. But I also, it really is an invitation to just walk out into something that's bigger than yourself, where you have the opportunity to impact someone's life, but then also where you have an opportunity to just come to know Jesus in a way that's deeper. So yes, it is helping Boy with the Ball, but it also is really helping you too. So yeah.
So one of the kind of overarching verse, which I've sort of crystallized into love God, love neighbor, right? It's the great commandment that Jesus tells us in the New Testament. And so I'm curious as to what, if any particular verse, kind of Boy with the Ball, kind of the organization as an organization has, as it's like, Bible verse that guides a lot of their work. If not, that's okay. But I've been thinking a lot, again, because of the series, because some of the things that I've been talking about can be, particularly, immigration being one of them, can be polarizing, right? And as Christians, right, we know what the Bible says about what our posture ought to be in suffering, in people who are suffering, and in how we are to view others and to love others just as Jesus loved us. You can't say that you love God if you don't love your neighbor, right? Kind of things. And so it's a very biblical perspective on how to approach any social issue, but really suffering. And right, and so the young people that you're there to help are suffering, through circumstances not of their own making, but they're suffering. And this is a way for your organization to come in and be Jesus to them, and facilitate thriving communities and provide all of these other things. So, if you don't have a particular verse, that's okay. But if you do, or even just like your own personal verse, as you're doing this work, right? I think it's good to remember, even as people are watching, like, what does God say? What does God call us as His children to do, right? Love mercy and act justly, walk humbly with your God, and how we should love others.
I, in my time with Boy with the Ball, have not come across anything that says this is the central verse that we're focused on. And kind of as you were talking, I was starting to think, okay, is there one that kind of is coming to mind for me? I think, I don't remember the specific reference, but it says something along the lines of how as people, we make our own plans, but it really is the Lord who establishes our steps. And I think that really does exemplify pretty well kind of how I'm trying to function within Boy with the Ball, and really just what we're built around is that with Jesus we win, and without Him we have no chance at all of doing anything that's helpful. And so I think that verse really kind of just encapsulates well this idea that it's just all about Him, and that I and this team that's forming really need to be just tuned into Him and to what He's saying, and to how He's leading us through His Spirit to interact with people and to love and serve them.
Yeah. What other places does Boy with the Ball? You said I think it was an international organization.
Yeah.
So in what other
Yeah.
countries does
Yeah.
Boy with the Ball operate?
Yeah, so we're in the U.S., obviously.
Right.
We're also in Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Lebanon.
Okay.
Our goal is to reach 30 teams by 2030. And I want to say we're somewhere around 12 or 13. So we have a ways to go. Yeah.
And how long has the organization been around?
Yeah. I believe 23 years.
23 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Melissa, for our audience
Yeah.
as we're wrapping up?
Yeah.
Either about this, about the neighborhood, anything
Yeah.
you want to share with the audience.
Yeah. There actually is something else that in this specific season that we're looking for, and that we're really seeking the Lord to build, and that is this core team of people. We're really looking for people who are passionate about serving young people in their community. And by community I mean Boston's young people, or just young people in general. But then also people who just really know and love Jesus, because this team is really built around hearing and obeying his voice, living every moment with him, each of us finding and fulfilling our purposes, living a life of faith and living in the power of his Holy Spirit. And then following Jesus out into the work of Boy with a Ball, to then see the lives of young people changed. And so if you are someone who you really care about young people, they're really passionate about young people, and you're also passionate about Jesus, I'm sure there's some way through this that you could get in touch with me and with us. And so,
but you have a website.
We do have a website. I believe, I'm not sure if my contact info is on the website. So, but yeah, we do have a website where you can kind of learn more about big picture, which is what we're about. So
yeah, but there may be a way to contact you through the website.
There might be. The safer bet might be somehow reaching out through.
Well, if you don't find how to contact Melissa, try to get in touch with us here at Face to Face, and we will make sure to put you in touch with Melissa. Thank you, Melissa, so much for sharing that need with us.
Yeah.
And you who are watching, I just pray that if you feel led and touched by what Melissa has just shared with you, that you would find a way either to get in touch with Melissa through the Boy with the Ball website, or reach out to us here at Face to Face, and we will make sure to get your information over to her. But this idea of serving God so that we can alleviate suffering, it is our Christian call, right? It is God's call unto each one of us, is to be able to serve him by serving others. And so I just encourage you, if there is some way that you are being touched and are being led by the Holy Spirit, to begin to move in the space where you are helping someone else. Even if it's not Boy with a Ball, maybe it's a different organization. Maybe it's your neighbor down the street. Maybe it's someone at work. You might be the person that others encounter Jesus through. They might never enter into a church, and they might never seek someone, but they might meet Jesus through you. So I just want to encourage you to be involved in your community and to be Jesus's hands and feet. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will see you next time.